So the flow linear motion system, it's for any sort of intralogistics you need it to actually operate through. So it's not tied to any one industry. So anywhere you want to change your freedom of motion or freedom of automation, instead of going from a process of A to B to C to D, now you can jump around as needed. Within the flow system, it's really designed as a carrier system. So you build the machine around that system, but no longer is a transportation system just a standard point and shoot application. We can actually motion in and around everything as we go. So again, it really comes in the freedom. So no longer are companies wanting to do the same thing over and over and over and living with the task of downtime or downtime between processes. So if a machine, one recipe for, say, a beverage application requires 3 different ingredients, I no longer have to do ingredient 1, 2, and 3. If ingredient 2 is necessarily busy, I can jump to 3 and come back. It allows me that flexibility. So one of the biggest difference between ours and versus all the competitors out there is we use a permanent magnet motor system. And the idea behind that is to give us a little bit more flexibility in motion. So as you see, we can rotate as we move across tiles, whereas a coil system with the square movers in the industry, they can only rotate center of the tile. So by doing that and allowing that motion to control, we can have more motion independently moving without considering having to be centered to that tile. We labeled it as 6D because it's really 6 degrees of freedom. So in that motion aspect is it's complete motion. So we have motion in X and Y, up and down, and also the tilt functionality to where we do this functionality of tilting A and B. The other big difference in the permanent magnet motion, as we see here, is if I have a power failure, I suck down to the surface. I don't have to worry about any sort of power loss motion standpoint. So if I do that, I can operate against the wall or even overhead. One of the biggest ones is the levitating height and the ability to go up and down. So we can go all the way up without any payload at 20 millimeters. Full payload, we can still do 10 millimeters, which is still industry height. So at full payload, we're at 10 millimeters of flow. And then as we flexibility there in motion, we can do that. So again, between that payload capability, the idea to rotate over there, rotate between tiles, and again, having that motion controlled system of inner tile motion instead of specific tile motion is really what sets us apart. So the idea behind with all of our linear motion technology within Bosch Rexroth is really to shrink your footprint. So instead of necessarily needing 2 or 3 applications to do the same process to do throughput, we can actually go from point to point quicker, which allows us to bring that footprint down. So everything's kind of scalable into what it actually needs to be application. So we'll design the application or the system to meet your application payload. Within the flow system on the HS track, a single mover like this is capable of 2.5 kilograms. You can combine these together to go to 5 kilograms and have the same control, speed, payload, and motion control, whether it's 1 or 2 movers.